Hello YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. This video is going to be a little bit more, hopefully, well, it's going to be one of my more favorite subjects, getting into different fantasy scenes and why we like them. But I'm going to call this one why many fantasy fans really love fantasy. I'm going to try to tap into that a little bit more here as I go through some of these scenes. By all means, this is not a comprehensive list. Just 20 different scenes. The last one I'm going to go with horror, actually, or something frightening. There's always a crossover between fantasy and horror. Just that one side, you tend to get more of the good stuff, good guys. The other side, you get more of the bad guys. So, yeah, and yeah, a little darker. So, yeah, again, why many fantasy fans really love fantasy? I'm saying many because there's definitely some folks out there that are a little bit different than maybe me or other folks that think similarly along similar lines with fantasy, but I couldn't say all. So I said many, but at least quite a few people. I'm sure that I'm going to tap into some reasons why they like some of these kinds of things. And that should kind of indicate maybe what we would look for in future fantasy. Books, movies, video games, etc. First one, hopefully, is pretty familiar to a lot of people. It's C.S. Lewis. It's just when Lucy steps through the wardrobe into Narnia for the very first time. Up to this point, I'm sure many of us love England and this old professor in his house, and that's all fine and good. Things really kind of step up a notch, though, when she goes into Narnia, because it's snowing and it's a different kind of environment. But if it's for the person who hasn't seen this movie before, who hasn't read this book before, the first time I can't remember if I saw the movie first or if I read the books. I can't remember which one was first. But when I first either watched the movie or read the book, I was entranced with it because I didn't know what was going to happen. And it was definitely different. This little girl walks into a different world. I didn't know what was going to happen. And that's most of the reason why it was so cool. On Earth, in the professor's home, you can expect Edmund, Peter, and Susan to kind of keep an eye on their sister, and Edward would kind of tease her a little bit, and the professor would kind of make sure everybody was, okay, and so on and so forth. Susan and Peter would kind of make sure Edward wasn't being too much of a pill, kind of thing. So it was a lot more structured, right? And of course, there was some sense of wonder because of the professor's house and how all his nooks and crannies and things and secret places. C.S. Lewis, I'm sure, was many people many people. I'll just say there's a deep fondness. There's a very deep fondness I have for England and Wales and Scotland and things like that, and Ireland too. The British Isles in general, but really it's like these old houses that dark stained wood, and the secret little passages. Where does this go? And C.S. Lewis was kind of thinking along those lines, obviously at first, and then so there was kind of a certain kind of sense of wonder and curiosity, but it really, again, it stepped up a huge notch when she discovered she wasn't even on Earth anymore. So completely, So I had no idea. I had no idea what expected. A lot of the stories I've written, a lot of the things that I tend to generate and brainstorm, I think along very similar lines to C.S. Lewis. Very similar lines. Very much so. And so, then she meets the fawn. But I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. But, I'm sure a lot of people have read it or seen it. But I would recommend reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Very, very good. Very good. Or seeing the movie. The animated movie is better, I think, than the other versions. There's quite a few. But yeah, I would see I think it's 1979, 1980, in that ballpark. It's early, but it's yeah. I'd recommend the animated version of that book movie. So again, C.S. Lewis stepping. So it's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it's when Lucy first steps into Narnia from the wardrobe. And yeah. Anyway, so it's just kind of, again, I didn't know what to expect, and you're kind of, like, oh boy, I hope nothing. I don't want anything to happen to her, right? She's just a little girl, just probably only, well, I don't know, 8 or 9 tops, maybe 10. Right in that ballpark, 8 or 9. They just, Okay, so next scene here is Smaug versus Bilbo in The Hobbit. And so in fantasy, it's overblown. I think the epic dragon, gotta fight the dragon, right? And they kind of poke fun a little bit at that idea in Dragonheart, a little bit, yeah, it's sure. Well, let's face it, Smaug is pretty scary, and so I'd recommend, again, either the animated version or Peter Jackson's version. They're both great in their own respects. I think a lot of purists, certain people would probably like the animated version better, perhaps. I don't know. I don't like The Hobbit, actually. The Hobbit, in some respects, I like The Hobbit. Some respects, I like The Hobbit even more than The Lord of the Rings. It kind of depends. But the CGI with Smaug was just, yeah. So I've mentioned this before. I hope I haven't repeated certain things, but why do we like obviously Bilbo in that scene was the underdog, and he had the ring. He caused him to be invisible, and he shouldn't have used it, but he did. He didn't know what. He just knew it made him invisible. He used it against Gollum. Now he's using it against Smaug, or Smaug is like, I'm gonna get you, and just how big he is compared to Bilbo. And it's a similar scene, but not nearly as intense, where Bilbo is kind of encouraged by the dwarves to take care of a situation with some big stone or rock trolls, something like that. And it's in the animated version where it's pretty scary. But yeah, again, the scene with Smaug versus Bilbo is just epic. Epic. Yes, epic. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that, if it's done right, these big showdowns, and they'll have some other scenes like that, you can tell this is like a big climactic moment. Bilbo could have been easily shish kebab by Smaug. Like, Smaug just, okay, I'm going to breathe fire a certain direction, I don't know if he's there, just boom, and he gets Bilbo. All it takes is Bilbo get burned once, and he's done by all that fire. So I was like, this guy is stinking brave. Against a dragon Smaug size, yeah. That takes some really serious guts. Serious guts. Okay, so when Gandalf visits Bilbo in The Hobbit as well, and of course you see a similar thing with Frodo, Lord of the Rings. Gandalf is essentially, and Jared Tolkien, I think, saw this connection between, I think, wizards and just old people, even if they're kind of professors, that sort of thing, but the old wise guy, right? The old wise guy. The old wise man visits a little guy, or young man, or a little guy, or I don't know. And there's something very heartwarming about that kind of thing. It's always stuck with me. Gandalf, again, very powerful, very tall, very wise, very wizard-like, being one of the wizards. Bilbo in a lot of respects reminds me of myself, especially when I was little. Bilbo's kind of, he likes everything in a certain place. He didn't like it when the dwarves ate all his food, I know, but no, he's kind of an adventure. I don't know if I want to go on an adventure. I just want to stay here. So it's very heartwarming scene, and Gandalf is very fond of Bilbo, and it's great stuff. It's just a great scene. It's very heartwarming. Makes you feel good. Another scene: Harry, Ron, and Hermione sneaking around Hogwarts with an invisibility cloak. And there's a number of other scenes like this. So this is kind of a general Harry Potter thing that I'm very fond of. So, you know, J.R. Tolkien. Sorry, I meant J.K. Rowling. What else? British, you know, authors. J.K. Rowling has a real love of. I know it. She probably likes Alice in Wonderland, or at least she's fond of, you know, the story. And you can kind of see kind of that love of mystery and secret places and tunnels in J.K. Rowling's psyche when she put in Harry Potter, and you know, yeah, I mean, like, there's all these rules, and the rules are meant to be broken, right? But you know, they don't want to get caught by Filch and Cat, you know, and there's just, you know, there's so many times when they're using the invisibility cloak, or they're using the, eventually they get, you know, the Marauders map, where they can kind of see everything. And it's like a lifesaver, so you can see if somebody's coming a certain way, or Snape is coming. I just love all, you know, they also discover secret chambers and the remove requirement, you know, all this stuff. It's very, very similar. It's kind of the idea of sneaking around and trying to find stuff, and maybe you might eavesdrop on a conversation that's important to hear, and maybe you're trying to get, you know, especially in a fantasy sense, nobody really wants to steal in real life, I think. But you know, it's fun to steal, say, in a video game. It's fun to, you know, be able to sneak by someone without them knowing that you're there. All this stuff. You know. There's all kinds of scenes in Harry Potter where, you know, they're using the invisibility cloak. I think, gosh, anyway, I'm still critical of the Prisoner of Azkaban, by the way. I don't like that time turner, I think, as much. That's, you know, other than number 3, I think they're all great, but especially my favorites, of course, are 2, Chamber of Secrets, and 5, Order of Phoenix. Plus, oh, the last ones are great too. 2 and 5, my favorites. 2 and 5. The first one's great too, but it's a little bit, I don't know, it's more kiddish. But okay, so something simple. You know, everyone knows the story. King Arthur pulling Excalibur from the stone. There's something about the swords. It's again epic, right? Use the word epic. Everybody likes to use these days, but it's swords. You know, are kind of like the good guy weapons, right? It's something very, I don't know where this comes from, but it, you know, even something like from Sleeping Beauty, the sword of truth or something. It sounds like something from, I don't know, the Bible or something, but I don't know what there's. All these quotes get mixed up in my mind, but yeah, I mean, like, swords they go back a long ways, and you know, I don't know, especially in Europe and stuff, and Israel. I don't know, but they just there's a lot of meaning, I suppose, but it's kind of it's just really exciting, you know. Like all the strongest men couldn't pull the sword from the stone, and whoever could pull the sword from the stone is right wise born King of England. This is according to Disney's version of King Arthur. You know. But I know it's probably not historically accurate and all this stuff. But I think the Disney version is great. But you know, anyway, you know, Excalibur. So anyway, of course, from Princess Bride, Inigo Montoya. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. And of course, I can't do it as well as Inigo's can do it, but yeah, I mean, you know, everyone knows that line, and there's like probably easily a dozen other lines that everybody knows about from that movie. So, Princess Bride is one of the most quoted fantasy movies of all time, of course, but it's so great because, I mean, it's the ultimate revenge, you know, quote, because Alexander Dumas and that's not really fantasy. It's kind of so as far as revenge and everything. So okay, the Count of Monte Cristo. So anyway, okay. So of course you have a scene where also Princess Bride where Wesley is you know, up against the short guy played by, I can't remember what his name is. something Wallace. He put the anyways. He's up against the brainy guy, from Sicily. Yeah, or something. That whole scene I think is great because there's there's a lot of very memorable quotes and yeah. It's the kind of the setting. It's like on the hill and it's overlooking all that other area, so it's kind of so it's down to you and it's down to me. And having that, like the non-combat, test, wits with iocane powder and the drink and that. It's a great scene. It's kind of funny, there's a lot of kind of funny things about Princess Bride, which I'm sure a lot of people that are very familiar with Princess Bride are also familiar with Monty Python, the Holy Grail. A lot of very quotable quotes, right? I know. Okay, so there's kind of a comic light side to it. Okay, so of course the first scene, another scene, I'm kind of, hopefully I'm tapping into some of these reasons why some people really love fantasy. But the very first scene inside Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in the more original movie with Gene Wilder, that sort of thing. It's when they first step into the actual big, huge candy room. The music, the chocolate waterfall, the dozens of different kinds of candy, and the big giant, I'm assuming gumballs or balls of candy, and trees with little gum balls, or little something fruit candy-ish, and then they have like the candy cane, giant candy canes, and they have the fruit roll-up things, and I just you can keep going, and then the little like the cookie things or the creamy things they're eating. And I don't know, and like everything from like of course like the little teacup thing, and it was edible, or it looked like it was something like lemon or honey or something. I don't know. And like, and Willy Wonka, Gene Wilder just bit into the cup with the thing after. Anyway, so yeah, the whole scene was just great. The music, I mean, I think it just blew everyone away. Like, I mean, it was just like everybody was just like, "Whoa!" Like, when this movie first came out, it was so colorful and it was so beautiful, and just it was like, "Whoa!" So I just love that stuff. Sometimes it's funny. Candy, I don't know. Increasingly, I'm wondering if candy is almost more enjoyable to look at rather than eat. Yeah, it's feel like eat candy, but we just a little bit goes a long way. But if it's done right, candy is like a work of art. Like you don't want to waste good candy in a sense, but you can have some very. I mean, they really did a good job with Willy Wonka. So okay, of course this is a little bit different ideas. Video game, scene from video game. So the last scenes in Baldur's Gate with Serva. So by this point the main character is playing this game, and I hope it's not a spoiler. Just you can fast forward this section if you want to. If you haven't played the game, you don't want anything spoiled. Again, this is Baldur's Gate, toward the end of the game. Yeah, I mean, like you're at the Ducal Palace, and you know what you're up against, so you know who you want to, you know kind of what's going down, right? You're gonna have to face Servok, and you have to kill him. Right? You have to end his diabolical interest, become the heir of the throne of Baal somehow, and so you don't want to kill anyone else. So you're there at the Ducal Palace, and then there's the dialogue where it has to do with Servox trying to get more political power. But then there's some people of nobility that are questioning that he was being rash. And then you have some doppelgangers that are there with Servok, and they're disguised as nobility, and it's this big argument, and eventually it turns into a battle where I think it's Belt. What's his name? Anyway, you have the nobility, the real nobility. They're fighting both doppelgangers and Servok. Of course, Servok is you can't really kill him in that scene. You have to be careful to stay away from him and kind of fight from the corners. There's all kinds of these guards that are fighting, big bloodbath. And the main thing is, of course, if you can protect the main prince or princess or something, or the duke or whatever, then they'll survive. But Servok eventually escapes. He says, "You can't hide further." He kind of taunts you, right? So then you have to chase him down, go through this big tunnel, and eventually get to this undercity or underworld. It's very dark and very hideous, and you finally make it into the Throne of Ball temple, and it's really dark and there's traps everywhere. And the whole scene is just blood's pumping, especially the first time you're playing this. And, it's red and black. It's very demonic, and Servok taunts you again. He eventually comes after you, but he's got 3 other buddies with him. Samaj and Angelo, both magic users, and he's got Tazok, one of his lackeys, Orc, or Ogre, kind of a... No, he's an Ogre. He's a big boy, and he's going to come after you. So then you have to avoid these cloud kills and these really not so fun spells that can really do number on you. And you also simultaneously have to avoid the traps that are not easily. You can't really. They're not really. You can't really disarm them. So you have to avoid the traps and these area spells. Meanwhile, to fend off yes, there's a lot of things you're doing all at once. It's a crazy, huge battle to end. I can tell you how I handled it. That moment, but basically I found that using poisoned projectiles aimed at Servok primarily, and then summoning a ton of just getting wands of monster summoning and just summoning the crud out of those wands. Those are your best bets, along with anything else that you can do. But really it's the poison projectiles with darts and arrows and crossbow bolts. Because if you can hit Servok from a distance while he's trying to fight all these monsters you summoned, you can keep everybody safe from Servok, who will probably kill you. It's very likely that this guy is insanely powerful. So, vampiric short regeneration. So, anyway, that scene is really intense. The Mirror Mask, a different scene, of course. This is Mirror Mask movie, Neil Gaiman. It's when the young woman meets the guy with the spiky hair. It looks like a mask almost. His hair looks a little bit like French fries. He's kind of, he's just kind of a nice enough guy, but he's a little bit simple-minded, perhaps, or he's a little bit kind of, I don't know. He's just especially a little bit not super bright, but he's a nice enough character, I suppose. Yeah. But kind of thinks about himself. Sometimes he evolves as a character. But he's a memorable character. He's a little bit like when Dorothy meets the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz. It's that kind of character, but he's not as much of an idiot, right? He's a little bit, but he's still kind of simple-minded, the guy with the spiky hair. And the funny thing is, of course, I don't want to spoil this too much, but at the end of the movie, you see another young man in real life, works at the circus, and you know that this is the guy. It's the same guy that played the spiky-haired guy, but now you see him as a real person, and you can say, and they're talking, and he seems a bit like the spiky-haired guy. His personality, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. But you're thinking, there's Mirror Mask has all those kinds of, interesting kind of similarities that go kind of deep in the subconscious between different characters from real life to, when this girl was I think apparently dreaming, as far as we can tell. But so okay, the never-ending story. The never-ending story when Bastion just ditches school, just says, "Nope, I don't want to take. I was late to school. I'm just gonna go read this book in the attic." I can't wait to read this book. Yeah, it's not right. It's not right to ditch school, but you can totally understand why he did what he did. Right. So, okay. The beginning of Harry Potter, The Order of the Phoenix. The secret of the beginning of the Order of the very beginning. I don't know if it's the very beginning, but so Harry, he has to get. He goes to this crazy bus ride with this Jamaican guy, I think, or something. Eventually, this is in London. He ends up at this top secret, building, and it kind of makes room. And somehow nobody's aware of this building expanding, and everything. I don't know. The way they did it was kind of a little bit more humorous than fantasy. I don't know. So eventually, you get this secret building that's just not visible from anywhere, and it goes into this long hallway. And the Order of the Phoenix is at the end of this hallway, and it's just a secretive aspect of the movie. And everybody's speaking in hushed tones and they're talking about what their plans are going to be. And that whole scene is just great. It's really awesome. It's Fred and George being goofballs and using their extendable ears and trying to figure out if Harry's ready to hear what needs to be heard. We all love the Weasleys, and so. Okay, so then you have in The Witches, when so the movie The Witches, when Luke, he's been transformed into a mouse by the Grand High Witch. He's trying to get a potion to essentially turn all the witches into mice, or whatever. It's very, very powerful potion, but it's just a little potion that it's not too big, so he can get it around his tail or something. So his grandma is trying to lower him down into the Grand High Witch's room via some yarn or something. She's knitting something. But so Luke, as a mouse, is trying to get in this room and trying to avoid the cat, and it's just a very memorable scene for me. I mean, it's scary because you have some masks and things that the Grand High Witch uses that look human. Because again, in Roald Dahl's world, witches aren't really human. Yeah, they kind of not. It's really scary. So, yeah. Anyway, they look really scary. Right? I don't want to spoil again. I know these are basically a lot of these things are kind of spoiler-ish. So I'm going to mention that at the outset. Just if you haven't seen these things, then you can fast forward into these things as they come. I hope I'm not spoiling anything for you. But Pan's Labyrinth. Obviously, I'm going to mention the man with no eyes, or the room with all the red food, basically, the very indulgent, really tasty looking food. And once the girl eats some of it, the guy's like, "Jink," and has the eyes in his hands. He comes after her. It can stick with you, but yeah, I hate to have to be the only scene that's really memorable in that movie, but I don't know. Anyway, there are certain battles I really enjoy playing in the Wheel of Time video game because there's a lot of strategies. There's a lot of strategy to it, and there's so many. It's such a good job with the variety of settings and colors and things. But there's one particular battle where you're inside a fortress of some sort. Well, I guess we call it a fortress. Yes, but there's Murdral and some other types of evil creatures that are coming after you. Of course, you're playing Elena, who's a good mage, we'll just say, and she's trying to collect these Tir Ungrial and essentially also these, more especially these seals, and there's bad boys that want them to do some bad stuff. That's essentially that's kind of what's going on. But in this particular battle, she's kind of cornered, and all these Murdral and all these other bad boys are coming after her, but they can only come at her a certain way. So she needs to be ready. She has a certain amount of time before these guys start coming after her in a certain place. So then, as your main character, you need to quickly set up or figure out your strategy, what you're going to do to kill as many of them as possible before they get to you. And so it's a kind of a good. There are some things. Okay, yes, I know it's obviously you want to use a lot of explosives. Use your explosive wards, right? That's one of the spells. If you ever play that game, explosive wards, and just put them all over the place, exactly where you know these murder all these other creatures are going to be walking by, because it'll explode, and you want to have a bunch of them, or at least have some of them such that they don't all set off at one point. So I can have some spaced out a little bit, so that you can kill as many of those as possible, guys, because they'll be coming. And then you can have your other spells that you can use to hit some of the other guys once all those explosive wards are used up and that sort of thing. So it's a battle strategy thing. It's really fun, and it's intense. These murder all are pretty scary. They're pretty. They can be pretty scary in their own respect. It's a first-person kind of thing, so first-person game. The first time you enter Baldur's Gate, the city Baldur's Gate, in the game, Baldur's Gate, it's quite awesome. Just the way they did the city is just beautiful, and everything is pretty breathtaking. It's just awesome. So it was very memorable for me. And I could say the same thing for certain other moments in other games, but that was just amazing. That scene from Baldur's Gate, it was really, really awesome. Getting into some other stuff here. Alice in Wonderland, when she's playing croquet with the Red Queen, there's something about croquet. I'm going to go a little bit different direction here for a second. So a lot of these things I'm talking about a lot of different things. There's kind of a enjoyment of sneaking around in the dark and spying with Harry Potter. And there's the colorful candy things and other things in Willy Wonka, and kind of over here is this flavors and grape and right, and then different memorable characters and Mirror Mask and the epic sword things and the dragon versus the Hobbit, So all these things we talked about so far, they're just great. Alice in Wonderland, though, again, it's just it's just so many things that really set it apart. And the way that Disney treated the scene, I think, is just amazing in terms of the colors, in terms of the approach. Already with using face cards as guards, it's part of the story, but the way they did it with the color scheme, so much of it's the animation in this movie. The black background, it's very, very mysterious. And it just, it had a huge impact on my psyche, I think. Just huge. I love that movie, but using that black background, it's very, very, had that mysterious quality about the whole movie. Just made it great. Awesome. Kind of a little bit scary, too, with the black background. Sometimes I think people think the Cheshire Cat was frightening with his yellow eyes and kind of unpredictable, kind of cat-like, playful, but still a bit unpredictable kind of personality. So people think that's just the Cheshire Cat, or, whatever he was, his big teeth and his big grin. And it was only the Cheshire Cat, when the Cheshire Cat was around, that maybe occasionally thought in the back of your mind, is this character evil? Is Cheshire Cat evil? Or is he bad? Or is he just playful and fun? And mischievous, But, it actually is that black background. That coupled with that scene, scenes of the cat being there, that makes that kind of that darker thing stick around in our minds a bit more. Because if it had been in broad daylight, seeing the Cheshire Cat like that, completely different kind of feeling might come. It might be more of a, let's go play, let's go explore, right? Come with me, Cheshire Cat. It'll be fun. And instead of that, it's dark and Cheshire Cat's grinning at you, and he becomes invisible. You can't see him, and comes back again. And did you miss me? And they just I don't know, talking about how everybody's mad in Alice in Wonderland. Everybody's insane. And just the way he did it. Yeah, it's like a little bit. a little bit, yeah, yeah. You're not really sure what's going to happen. So, getting back to this Croquet scene with the Red Queen. Okay, so we all hate the Red Queen. The Red Queen's full of herself. Croquet, like a lot of other sports, certain other sports, right? Certain sports. So first off, it's a sport, and it's harder. It can be harder, not as hard as golf, perhaps, but croquet it can be frustrating. So there's already a frustrating element in it, especially if Alice isn't as skilled. So if it was just the Red Queen versus Alice, and they're using regular croquet mallets, Alice is pretty fit, for her age. The Red Queen's big, but she's kind of maybe not quite as quick. She's a little bit lumbery, a little bit chubby. Who knows? But she has some power, so maybe you might think that physically, from a physical standpoint, they might be fairly, somewhat comparable. Even though Alice is a bit younger, she might not have as much power physically, but she might make it for in other ways. Accuracy, who knows? Alice is certainly pretty smart and things. So you think, oh, hey, this will be interesting. And then they use these ostriches or something, for clubs, and Alice's ostrich is being a doofus, and the Red Queen's little ostrich, I think it's an ostrich, is definitely snacking it out of the ball, just going around. And then all these little, and the croquet balls themselves are these little animals that are commanded to go through all the holes, and so no matter what, the Red Queen's going to win, right? This on top of all the other things about those scenes that, the face cards are essentially, commanded by the Queen to do what she wants them to do. But they're kind of tall compared to Alice, and it can be a little bit frightening in a certain way. These solid colors, these colors are huge in that Disney's Alice in Wonderland, because red, like blood, right? Courage. I mean, they're so vivid that they actually have an emotional impact on you. Greenery of grass. I remind you, okay, it's nice and pretty, but maybe you remember a frustrating croquet game you had. So the green of the grass might, I remember that one time when I lost to that guy. That place looked a lot like this place. So maybe it has a competitive side to it, not just the red color of some of the things, but also that green grass. The sport kind of thing. Croquet, and then the colorfulness of the croquet mallets a little bit, and of course we're talking about mallets here. So let's say this scene isn't necessarily, in a sense, violent when you're talking about mallets. There are certain other movies, though, I've heard of where they use mallets in a violent manner. So hopefully this hasn't happened to anybody. I know. I mean, this is not what croquet mallets were intended for, but I imagine, you could probably seriously hurt somebody, send them to the hospital if you smacked with a croquet mallet. So, So there's a lot of different things that this scene is touching on that might register with a lot of people. One of the clear things will be frustration. Absolutely. Put yourself in Alice's shoes. There's no way she can win. So, and everybody's laughing at her because it's they're actually probably commanded to laugh at her because the Red Queen, it's always her ways. What kind of a game is it when it's like the whole thing from the get-go is just... So, it's just not fun for her. It's like going to a birthday party, but everybody's laughing at you. It's like... some people say, what's the point? What's the point of going if they're just going to laugh at you? Or no matter what, what happens, it's going to end up bad. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean that scene and all this other colors that but there's, so there's that frustrating scene playing croquet with the Red Queen for Alice, and also the Cheshire Cat when he's introducing himself. That's to me, really gets your subconscious going sometimes. And then of course there's a scene when Alice is lost and she's kind of crying, and all of these interesting creatures are coming around her. And, a lot of this is kind of Disney's awesome imagination and animators. I mean, it's just amazing. We obviously feel really bad for her. And because of the black background, you are a little bit scared for her. You're not sure what's really going on. You can tell that the creatures that are sympathetic to her, and some of them start crying themselves, are good creatures, of course. They wanted to comfort Alice, but they're kind of sad for her. But you just don't know what else is going on behind the black background, right? But you just have this feeling of that she's alone. Even it's great that she has these little pencils, guy with little glasses, guy that and all these little ducklings with the little honking little things. I don't know. So okay, I'm gonna one more scene, and then where I'm going with all this stuff. So of course, the sewers beneath Derry in the movie It, Stephen King's It. This is more than any other movie in some respects that is scary. It just has so many aspects about it that register with me, that have sit rather deeply in my psyche. Now, as a general rule, like I mentioned this before in other movies, if I see a clown in real life, I have no reason to be afraid of a clown because clowns are human. Unless that clown is carrying a weapon and coming after me. At that point, I will be afraid, not because of the guy's a clown, but because he's chasing me with an axe. Or I'll probably, size up the situation if I had a weapon. But, honestly, if someone's chasing you with an axe, unless you know how to handle yourself around someone who's chasing you with an axe, yeah. So, real life, it's different, right? But this idea of the scary clown, right? So, we're already, by this, if someone's seeing it for the first time, and especially if they're younger, I wouldn't recommend that movie for anybody younger than 15 or 14 or so, but yeah, so for more than one reason, but so basically, yeah, I mean, it's when the Losers Club, when the kids, all the kids, and I know there's a remake coming out, I'm looking forward to that one too, when they go down into the sewers, both the first time and the second time, well, I'm glad they left this part out of the scene. I don't think that these sewers actually had fecal matter, right? I think they're just underground, little tunnels, right? Nobody wants to see a movie where someone's waiting around to poop, right? But anyway, yeah. So, but when they're in these tunnels, and when you know that it is somewhere down there, you don't know what to expect because it is probably aware of what's happening. So at any moment, he could attack them. But the attack might be more psychological. Might be actually corporal. You just don't know what to expect. He has got such vast power, this entity, anyways. Yeah, I mean, and the music is really good. Yeah, Richard Bellis, I think. Anyway, and there's this scene where he all of a sudden surprises them. He's over them on the ceiling, and but you can tell it's it, but it's I mean, he's just sounds like a projector, it's him, but it's not him, and he's not corporal. He's just this image of over them, and he's scary. Yeah, and that whole scene. I'm not talking about the very end scene, which yes, you know what I'm talking about, right? But the movie, but talking about most of the other scenes where you have Henry Bowers with bullies, that everything that happens to them, and you have in the sewers, and you have everything that happens to the Losers Club up and Hanscom. Sorry, there's a very big insect outside. I just saw. Anyway, I might wrap this up pretty soon. So basically, where am I going with all this? Well, there's a lot of getting back to the title of this video. Why many fantasy fans really love fantasy? it's the unpredictability. It's the unpredictability of fantasy mixed with some degree of predictability, but the wonder, sense of wonder. So there's unpredictability and wonder, and just this thing when authors, or when video game makers or movie makers, there's some that know what. Some things are just more naturally curiosity provoking than other things. And it depends on so many things. It depends on the characters that are in a certain scene or the lack of them, colors, settings, um, I don't know. There's just a lot of things that. So there's all that. There's also this sense of excitement. Think of all the things that you want to do. I mean, really, a lot of times it comes down to, what do you really want? What do you really want to do that you can't do in real life, or you just don't have time for, or you wish you could do? And that's one of the reasons why we read, we watch these movies. We want to, on some level, experience these things. We want to fly. We want to go these places. And in particular, fantasy fans want these things. Other people that are not as crazy about fantasy, maybe at some point they wanted to do these things, but maybe they just haven't wanted to do them as much for a while. They become adults. They become practical and realistic, right? Everybody's a little different. We all enjoy different things, I suppose. But if you find, it's kind of, I would think fantasy fans keep that kid in them, in a sense, a bit more. Kids have vivid imaginations. So should adults. But you have to keep nurturing it, fostering it, letting it grow. You can't let it say, you can't forget about it. Otherwise, it's just going to get weaker and weaker. I don't know if you'll ever lose it entirely. Everybody should have a healthy imagination, I think. Thank goodness for imagination. So, but anyway, you can see why fantasy fans then like some of these things, because they're not realistic. They're not easily explainable, right? Something that's curiosity provoking is not easily explainable. Otherwise, what's the point? If you were to have a scene where you had a bunch of different, really amazingly different, intriguing fruits, maybe it's not quite as enjoyable. You can see someone, a character in a movie, eating some of these fruits, and you see the reaction they have, and how good it tastes, or how different it tastes, right? And so you can say, I wonder what that tastes like. You can think, I want some of that. I wonder what it tastes like. Maybe it's not as curiosity-provoking, for instance, as something like, again, an idea of coming to a wall, let's just say kind of a gate of some sort, and there's all these different kinds of faces, but you can tell behind these faces there's different paths. Which path to choose? I don't know, but you have to kind of go off your gut instinct what these faces are like and what they might mean. Maybe they're indicating some nature, something having to do with what's beyond them, these different paths. It's a different kind of thing. Perhaps some elements of curiosity, some kinds of curiosity have more of a sense of apprehension as well, mixed in with that curiosity. And so, but sometimes it's just pure. Sometimes you just feel pure wonder or bliss, that sort of thing, and of all kinds of things though. But yeah, there's a kind of and sometimes you just want to, when you're reading a book, you just it's very emotionally satisfying. Emotionally, and you're so frustrated with all the rules in the world and all the things you can't do. And when you read a book about people having fun breaking these rules, and just like giving the bird to authority figures, that can yeah. Again, why do many fantasy fans really love these things? I think it should be clear now, and a lot of people kind of know this already, but about maybe why they like it. But it's great to be able to articulate that a little bit. It still doesn't take away from there's some things that will remain mysterious, and in life, in the world, that we touch on in fantasy in some respects, and they'll remain mysterious until we understand all things. But when we understand all things, at some point in the future, way after our lives. I think that still things will still be very beautiful or intriguing still. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Take care.